Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 10,023, written by Kelly. My father is Unbound by Spacetime. My son, 8 male, and I, 42 female, were in his bedroom reading a story before bedtime. I had my back to the door and I was just reading a children's bedtime story to my almost asleep son when I heard from behind me my dad's voice calling my name. It startled me as we were home alone. I turned around quickly to see my dad just rounding the corner, heading down the stairs. I only saw the back of him, and only for a split second, but I knew it was him. I called out to him, but he didn't answer. I got up and quickly followed him. As I rounded the corner to the stairs, I saw him in a side profile, just turning the corner at the bottom of the stairs into the kitchen. I called out to him again, but still no answer. I was so confused. I headed quickly down the stairs to catch up to him, but as I rounded the corner into the kitchen, in an almost run at this point, he wasn't there. I ran through the kitchen into the living room, but the house was empty, totally quiet. Now I was more than confused. I checked the entire house. I checked the front and back doors, which were both still locked up tight. I called my dad on the phone and he answered straight away, and he was at home, 4 miles away, and hadn't left all evening. I was fully awake. I hadn't been drinking and have never taken any mind-altering drugs. I have carbon monoxide alarms in the house, which I test weekly, so it's not that. I have no explanation for this, and I'm struggling to come up with any. Case notes for file 10,023. My father is unbound by Spacetime. You know, if you ask your dad what he was thinking about when you called him, or maybe a few minutes before you called him, my guess is it was about you. I think this astral projection can happen sometimes for specific individuals, maybe if their mind is open to it. Usually their soul is drawn or pushed out towards what they're thinking about, something important to them, usually a person, and in this case you. And not even necessarily thinking about you in the present moment, but just in a general sense, maybe thinking about memories of you growing up or anything related to you, the soul would then gravitate, be drawn, maybe pushed, drawn towards the person where the memories are so connected and powerful. It's just metaphysical. The soul doesn't care about distance. 4 miles is like 4 plank lengths. It doesn't matter. It can go there instantaneously. Spooky action at a distance that Einstein would say with quantum entanglement. Everything is connected in that sense where, yeah, you can't transmit information, but there is a pathway, like a highway, that can be traversed. Our souls can, at least. The other possibility, if it's not astral projection, is just multiversal peering. You were seeing your dad because he was either living with you in another universe or just visiting for the night. And he obviously didn't hear you. He was just going down and maybe hungry, getting a snack from the kitchen. Something like that. Simple. Case file number 10,024, written by Shih Tzu 13 Master. The dog with a grand secret. So I have this aging lapdog. I built a ramp for him to use when I opened the door, for him to pee, instead of him having to use the stairs. I would open the door, he'd run down the ramp, do his business in the garden, and then come back and have me lift him back up into the house. He won't take the stairs or go back up the ramp anymore. I just did the routine. He came back, waited to be lifted. I checked his butt in case I needed to clean it. I have him in my bed, so skid marks aren't going to happen, and then set him down on the floor in the hallway, drawing the door closed behind me. I followed him through the hallway and stepped into the living room. I threw another log in the fire and then turned to look through the open door to confirm that he's on his doggy sofa, waiting to be lifted into bed, but he wasn't there. I checked the kitchen, not there. Living room, still no. Bedroom, nope. Went back through the hallway to see if he had somehow ended up in the bathroom. Nope. What the hell, where is he? In desperation, just to confirm I'm not crazy, I opened the back door again to see if I didn't just imagine the entire sequence. And there he was, happily just returning from his pee. He didn't look worried at all, not at all having been left outside look on him. What the hell? I thought teleportation was firmly in the cat domain. Case notes for file 10,024. The dog with a grand secret. So is this a buffered glitch? A glitch in the buffer? If the universe is buffered ahead, the information's already there, we made our choices and we're just experiencing them again, well, in that case, you played out the events twice for some reason instead of just once. So now this would be the third time, and it was like a reset. But maybe not, because it's not a total reset unless you lost, if it was only a minute or two, maybe you wouldn't even have realized that time was lost. Maybe you repeated a couple minutes. That's a small enough time where you may not even have noticed. I mean, I don't necessarily know exactly what time it is right now versus in 2 minutes. So I could lose 2 minutes without really knowing if I'm just, hanging out at home or something. So maybe it was just a buffered reset. Now that said, the other possibility is maybe your dog is really just that powerful, beyond anything we can possibly comprehend, and he's just biding his time. We should be on the lookout. Creepy file number 84, written by hollyhotdogs, an unearthly South Haven experience. So I'm going to start by saying I'm basically a skeptic when it comes to paranormal, although I love hearing stories and listening to others' points of views when it comes to that kind of stuff. This is why I'm having such a hard time understanding what happened to me last September. My dad, grandma, grandpa, and I were attending my cousin's wedding in a small rural town just outside of South Haven, Michigan, late last summer. We rented a small house in town, which was located in a very wooded area just off a small lake. Something felt extremely off as soon as I got out of the car at our rental property. That's the best way I could describe it. Something felt off, and I was immediately uneasy. But being the skeptic that I am, I shrugged it off and chalked it up to being tired and anxious. The night we arrived, my dad and I were having a smoke outside and noticed how weird everything sounded. It was about 11 p.m. and there was no one else around. The trees were crackling incredibly loudly, and we were hearing strange animal noises, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Just the type of animal noises you would hear in rural Michigan, but they just sounded particularly strange for us for some reason. We said our goodnights and went to bed. The next morning, my dad told me that he went outside for a smoke at about 2-ish that morning and heard what sounded to him like someone close by banging on metal siding. He said it sounded like it was just next door, but didn't hear anything leading up to or preceding the loud banging, like footsteps or anything like that. We shrugged and laughed it off. The second night was when I heard the thing that I still can't stop thinking about 6 months later. It was about 11 p.m., maybe midnight, and I was having my last smoke of the night. My grandparents were already asleep, and my dad had just gotten into bed, but still awake watching TV. I was sitting on the stairs outside with my back to the house, looking straight out into the backyard. I heard someone shout my name in a very abrupt manner, loud and fast. It sounded like they were shouting towards me, from the front of the house, like they were standing on the front porch shouting for me, knowing I was at the back of the house. It sounded just like my dad, but it couldn't be him because I didn't hear the front door open or close or anything. Being a skeptic, I reminded myself to stay calm, and I quickly walked back into the house. My dad was sound asleep now. There was no way that by the time I got to him, he could have gotten back into bed and then fallen asleep. I woke him up and asked if he was outside screaming my name. He looked confused and said of course not. I started to get really freaked out at this point. I tried to go to bed but couldn't get that scream out of my head. I was up all night trying to figure out what happened. I was honestly contemplating leaving, getting a hotel room somewhere close by and returning in the morning. Miraculously, I must have fallen asleep sometime around 3 a.m. We woke up the next morning and I was so ready to get the hell out of town. As soon as we left, the uneasy feeling I had the entire weekend disappeared. When I returned to work the next day, I told my coworker the weird experience I had. Her face immediately dropped. She proceeded to inform me that this is quite common in the Appalachian area regarding cryptids and other types of creatures. Apparently, they try to get your attention by mimicking someone close to you, and when you look at them, they kidnap you or something along those lines. But I was in Michigan. I tried to look up information about the town I was in, but didn't find anything remotely interesting. Has anyone else had a similar experience? Especially in Michigan. Case notes for the creepy file number 84, an unearthly South Haven experience. So people have suggested this could be related to mimicry. A mimic can, of course, mimic appearances and sounds of people you know and love, like your father. and they try to do this to lure people into isolated areas and then kidnap them, torture them. I'm not sure exactly what the motive is, but whatever it is, I don't think it's anything good. So it's a good thing that you didn't go and you weren't drawn like the mermaid, the sirens, the ocean siren. My impression is it's more than just that. I mean, if a mimic is there, does it create this atmosphere over an entire town of despair and anxiety? Like you describe feeling this great unease just by being there. So it seems like there's an actual presence beyond just a mimic. Maybe there is also a mimic, but there's something even higher level than that. And you know this because as soon as you left, you instantly described feeling better. So there was actually like this hanging, looming cloud over the town. I wonder if anyone else felt that. Maybe looking up the Facebook group for that town, maybe people speak about that. Maybe people who live there are so used to it, they don't even realize anything's wrong. Maybe if they go for a vacation, they realize, damn, things feel better out here. What's going on? And now time for the quote of the day. The earth is the cradle of humanity, but humanity cannot remain in the cradle forever. Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. Damn, do I love this quote. And it applies not just to humanity as a whole, although at the abstract, the higher level, you can just think of, yeah, we need to leave the planet. We can't just be a single planet species. If we really want to get out there, well, we've been to the moon once, presumably, right? Let's go to Mars. Let's see what's out there. Now, it takes such a long time, but there's ways around it. We have the technology. We could literally build a spaceship right now. Well, first we build a base on the moon, and then bring materials up there slowly, and then we can build a larger spacecraft in the low gravity around the moon, and from there we can build a spacecraft that is capable of rotation, internal rotation, to create the effect of gravity effectively. For those living on the ring that is rotating around itself, around a central axis point. If you rotate at I don't know the exact math right now, but depending on the size of it, you wouldn't actually need extremely fast rotation. So then things could remain mostly normal in terms of human perception. That would eliminate the problems on the human body of low gravity. Even though astronauts in the International Space Station, they work out religiously, like every single day, hardcore. It's not enough to reduce the muscle loss, the atrophy of the muscles and the bones. Coming back to Earth is a nightmare if they spend any notable amount of time up there. So we could build a spacecraft that has that. We could build a spacecraft that is surrounded in a harder shell that is layered with a lot of water to absorb the cosmic rays. We could even build a EM generator on the spacecraft to mimic the magnetosphere of the Earth that protects us from solar radiation. Because that's the other concern right now that astronauts have. Any prolonged voyage would result in a lot of radiation for anyone aboard, unless we shield it. But that's the thing, we can. We have the technology to do all this. It's just a question of will and, of course, money and time. But it's theoretically possible. We could absolutely go to Mars. And I know Elon Musk wants to do it. I think it's a bit ambitious. I think a lunar base is the first step, so you can actually build a reliable craft that could do it in a way that, doesn't harm the people aboard. They can remain relatively sane, experience gravity, the effect, and be protected from solar radiation, all that good stuff. But yeah, we can do it. I think within maybe 3 decades, we could have a base on Mars. Cool stuff, man. Can't wait.